Today we will study the new concept of electric field. Now in the previously we have studied Coulomb's law. Now we have one charge capital Q and I am placing another charge small q which is at a certain distance r. Okay. Now this capital Q, it is a larger charge and small q, it is a smaller charge, let us assume. Now according to Coulomb's law, there is an electrostatic force of repulsion. If you consider those two charges are of same kind, then we have a repulsive force. The magnitude of the repulsive force is given by 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught capital Q small q divided by r square. That we know. That means I have considered some point from the larger charge which is at a distance r. At that point, I have placed another smaller charge. Let me call it as a unit positive test charge. Unit positive test charge. Now, this test charge is going to experience as a force because of the larger charge. If I remove that test charge from that point, can you find anything else at that point? Do you have anything present in that point if there was no charges? If you place the charge, then that charge is going to experience a force. So that means at that particular point, there must be something else which is going to exert force on the test charge. That something else, here we have taken it as electric field. So therefore, if you consider a point charge capital Q, the region around the point charge at which another test charge will experience a force, electrostatic force, and that region we call it as electric field. So we have a test charge here, we have a charge around this region. This is the region around the charge. In that charge, if I bring another charge, that another charge, let me call it as a test charge. If I bring a unit positive test charge in that region, it is going to experience the electrostatic force. Now that region around the charge is called as electric field. Now it experiences a force that is given by this one. Therefore, the expression for the field is given by electric field. The magnitude of the field is given by 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught q divided by r square. Now this is the expression for magnitude of electric field due to a charge capital Q. Now look here. Now this electric field is directly proportional to the charge. If the charge increases, the electric field also increases. And one more thing, this electric field is inversely proportional to the distance, square of the distance of the point. Now this is similar to that of force. Now force is also inversely proportional to square of the distance. Similarly, electric field is also inversely proportional to the square of the distance. So that meaning, so if I plot a graph for the electric field versus the distance of the point, it has an exponential decreasing curve because of inverse square dependence. Now this is the strength of the electric field or magnitude of the electric field at a point at a distance r from the charge. Magnitude of the electric field at a point at a distance r from the charge capital Q. This electric field is also a vector quantity. similar to that of the electrostatic force. It is a vector quantity, and its direction is for a positive charge. For a positive charge, the field is radiating outward. For a negative charge, the field is radiating inward. So in vector form, we can write the electric field vector E is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q by R square into R cap, where R cap is a unit vector along the line joining the point to the charge. So this is the point, this is the charge. We are joining this point to the charge along this straight line. So therefore this R cap unit vector is along this straight line. Now look at these two expressions. Now this is the magnitude of the force and this is the magnitude of the electric field. So from these two relations, so we can write force is equal to small letter q into E. So we are getting an important relation. In magnitude, the force is equal to small letter q, that is charge of the unit test charge, and electric field due to a larger charge. So from this one, we have electric field E is equal to F by Q. Electric field E is equal to F by Q. So therefore, we can also define the electric field at a point due to a point charge is the force a unit positive test charge will experience when placed at that point. The force experienced by a unit positive test charge placed at that point represents electric field due to charge capital Q at that point. So therefore, from this expression, the SI unit of electric field is Newton per coulomb. Newton per coulomb is the SI unit of electric field. And also in the next chapter, we are going to obtain the another unit for electric field as volt per meter. So we are using these two SI units. One is Newton per coulomb according to this expression, and in the second chapter we are going to have another unit for electric field, that is volts per meter, V by M. Therefore, now we can study some four remarks regarding this electric field. Now from this expression, we will define the electric field as E is equal to F by Q. Electric field due to a point charge at a point is the force experienced by a unit positive test charge placed at that point. So that is the first remark. And the second remark. Now here in the first remark, here capital Q is called, it is a source charge. Capital Q is called the source charge, and small q, it is, we are going to test the field, we are going to test the force, therefore small q is called test charge. The small q test charge, it is so small that it will not alter the position of the source charge. We have to choose the test charge, the unit positive test charge, vanishingly small, very small, so that it will not alter the position of the source charge. That is the first remark. And second remark, for a positive charge, the electric field is radially outward. The field direction is radially outward for a positive charge. For a negative charge, the electric field is radially inwards. electric field is inverse for a negative charge. And third remark, this electric field is depending on the distance of the point. It is inversely dependent. If you consider some point, we have a charge here. Let me take this charge. Now here is some point which is at a distance r. Now if you work out the magnitude of the electric field and take the same distance point in the other direction, if you consider all points which are at the same distance from the charge, the magnitude of the electric field is found to be same. If all these points what you have chosen are at the same distance from the test charge, if you work out the magnitude of the electric field remains same. So therefore, this electric field has spherical symmetry. It has a spherical symmetry. That means if you consider a point around which, if you consider a sphere having a radius r, at all points on the sphere, if you calculate the electric field, it is found to be same. Therefore, electric field has a spherical symmetry. And the fourth remark, this electric field E is due to the source charge. Due to source charge. It is due to the source charge. And it is independent of test charge. This electric field is mainly depends on the source charge and it is independent of test charge. Now we will study electric field due to system of charges. So earlier we have calculated electric field due to a single charge. Now here are considering a system of 4 charges, Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. We are having 4 charges. Now at some point P, we are going to calculate what is the electric field due to all the 4 charges. Now with the definition of electric field, the total electric field at point P is the net force experienced by a unit positive test charge placed at that point. The net force experienced by a unit positive test charge which is placed at that point P is called as the electric field due to the system of 4 charges. Now let me consider one by one. Let me take the first charge Q1, which is the point P is at a distance R1P from the charge Q1. Therefore, the magnitude of the electric field E1 is equal to magnitude. Let me write the magnitude 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into the charge Q1 divided by distance, that is RP1 square. Now what is the direction? Since we are assuming that all the charges are positive, for a positive charge the field lines are moving away. Therefore, we have the electric field E1 along this direction. So therefore, if I write it in the vector form, then we have R1P cap, a unit vector which is along the distance of the point from the first charge. Now this is the electric field due to the first charge. Now similarly write the electric field due to the second charge Q2. We will having the expression, if I write it as E2, vector E2 is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, that is Q2 divided by R2P square with unit vector R2P cap. Now what is the direction? Now direction of the second field is along this direction, that is E2. Since all are taken as positive, therefore electric fields are moving away from the positive charge. Therefore, direction is as shown in that diagram. Similarly, we write for the third charge E3. Now, third charge is at a distance R3P. R3P is the distance of the point from the third charge. So, is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q3 divided by R3P square into R3P cap. R3P cap, it is a unit vector along the direction. What is its direction? It is away. That is E3. Similarly, for the fourth charge, we have the electric field is given by 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q4 divided by R4P square into R4P cap. That is the electric field due to the fourth charge, and its direction is once again as shown here. This is E4. Now we have calculated what is the electric field at the point P due to individual charges. Now we have to calculate what is the total electric field at that point. For that one, here also we are making use of principle of superposition. Or superposition principle. The same principle we have used in the case of finding the net force between the system of charges. The same principle here also we are using, principle of superposition. Now, according to this one, the total electric field at the point P is the vector sum of electric field due to the individual charges. So, therefore, the total electric field at that point P is given by the vector sum of all the fields E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus E4. Okay. So, therefore, if I substitute all the values and taking the common things out, 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught is common here in all the cases. That is Q1 divided by R1P square R1P cap plus second term Q2 divided by R2P square into R2P cap plus third one Q3 divided by R3P square into R3P cap plus the fourth term Q4 divided by R4P square into R4P cap. Now this gives the expression for total electric field due to the system of 4 charges. If you extend this one to the system of n charges, if you assume that there are n number of charges, then the electric field is given by 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Instead of writing each and every terms, we use the sigma notation. Okay, sigma notation into Qi divided by R IP square, Qi divided by RIP square into RIP cap, that is the unit vector, where I takes the values 1 to n. Now this expression gives the vector sum of electric field at a point for a system of n number of charges.
The significance of electric field. Now, what is an electric field? Due to a point charge, it is the force experienced by a unit positive test charge placed at that point, and hence the electric field, it characterizes the electric atmosphere around a point charge. Now if you have a point charge here, around this point charge, just like a compound to our house, in the same manner, this electric field has a boundary, certain boundary, around which there is an electric atmosphere or environment. Now that is experienced only when if you place a test charge at that, then it is going to experience the force. In the case of an accelerated motion, assume that one charge is moving or both the charges are moving. Q1 and Q2 are the two charges. They are in accelerated motion. Now the accelerated motion of Q1, one charge, produces electromagnetic wave that we will study later onwards. Waves. It produces an electromagnetic waves, and these waves are traveling at the speed of light and reaches the second charge Q2 and exerts force on the second charge. So here the notion of field is time delay. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, there is a time delay. Now that time delay is represented by the electric field.
Let me solve one problem. 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 of magnitude plus 10 to the power of minus 8 coulomb and minus 10 to the power of minus 8 coulomb respectively are placed 0.1 meter apart. Calculate the electric fields at points A, B and C as shown in the diagram. Now look at the diagram. We are having two charges. One is plus 10 to the power of minus 8 coulomb at Q1 and another one is minus 10 to the power of minus 8 coulomb at Q2. Now the first point is A, it is the midpoint of the line joining the two charges. Second point is B and third point is C. At these 3 points we have to calculate what is the net electric field. Now solution. Now at A, let me take the electric field E1A and is given by the formula. Now the electric field at A due to the positive charge at Q1, E1A is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into, so Q1 by R square general formula. Now substitute the values. 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into charge is given plus 10 to the power of minus 8 coulomb divided by the distance, since it is the midpoint, Q1, the distance of point A from the positive charge is 0.05. So 0.05 whole square. Okay. Now 10 raised to plus 9 and 10 raised to minus 8. Therefore 10 raised to 1. 10 raised to 1 into 9 is 90 divided by. Now if I write this one as 5 into 10 raised to minus 2. So 5 into 10 raised to minus 2 whole square, if I write that one, then it becomes, so 5 square is 25 into 10 raised to minus 4. Now take the calculator and divide 90 divided by 25. So I am going to get 3.6 into 10 to the power of plus 4. Therefore, E1A, it is the electric field at A due to the charge Q1. It is 3.6 10 to the power of plus 4. Unit is Newton per coulomb. Now what is the direction? It is along Q1 to A. Its direction is from Q1 towards the A because it is a positive charge. So therefore at A, now the direction of it is E1A. It is towards right. It is towards right side. Now similarly, the electric field at A due to the negative charge. So that let me write it as E2A is equal to since the charges are having the same magnitude but opposite sign, therefore the electric field at A due to the negative charge is also, I am getting the same magnitude, 3.6 into 10 to the power of 4 Newton per Coulomb, since the magnitude are same. Now what is the direction?
Now this electric field E to A is due to the negative charge. This electric field is towards the negative charge, or it is also along the same direction, right side. Due to the positive charge at A, the electric field is towards the right. Due to the negative charge at A, electric field is towards the same right side. So therefore, total electric field at A, EA, it is the vector sum, obviously, E1A plus E2A, and both are in the same direction. So 3.6 plus 3.6, it is 7.2 into 10 to the power of plus 4 Newton per Coulomb. So this is the total electric field at the point A. Okay. Now we have to consider the second point, B point at B. Okay, we will work out the electric field. Now the point B is at the same distance 0.05 from the positive charge. That's what you have worked out here. Okay. So therefore, the electric field at B due to the positive charge, let me write it as E1B. E1B is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 divided by this distance 0.05 whole square, or 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into charge is 10 to the power of minus 8 divided by 0.05 square, or you can write it as 5 into 10 raised to minus 2 whole square. Now we have simplified this one, and this value is 3.6 into 10 to the power of plus 4 Newton per Coulomb. 3.6 into 10 to the power of plus 4 Newton per Coulomb. Now what is the direction of this field E1B? Since it is a positive charge, it is moving away. Therefore, it is towards left, E1B. At the point B, that E1B is acting along the left side direction. Now at the point B, we have to calculate what is the electric field due to the negative charge. So therefore, that is E2B is equal to formula 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into that charge Q2 divided by the distance of the negative charge from the point B. So it is 0.05, 0.05, 0.1 and 0.05. It is 0.15 whole square. 0.15 whole square. Now substitute and simplify. 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into 10 to the power of minus 8 divided by, this can be written as 0.15 whole square, 0.0225. 15 square is 225. So now take the calculator and simplify this one. If I simplify, after simplification, I will get this one as 0.4 into 10 to the power of 4. 0.4 into 10 to the power of 4 Newton per Coulomb. Now what is the direction of this field due to the negative charge? Now here, positive charge towards the left, and due to the negative charge, it is towards right. E2B is towards right. They are exactly opposite in direction. Okay. Then what is the total electric field at B? Therefore, EB is equal to, since they are exactly opposite, that can be written as E1B minus E2B. E1b minus E2b. E1b is 3.6 minus 0.4 into 10 to the power of 4. So therefore it is 3.2 into 10 to the power of 4 Newton per Coulomb EB. It is 3.6 minus 0.4, therefore 3.2 into 10 to the power of plus 4 Newton per Coulomb. It is towards left. Its direction is towards the left side. Now the third point is, see, at that point we are going to work out what is the electric field due to those two charges. Okay. At C, let me take the electric field E1C due to the positive charge. So it is formula 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 divided by the distance 0.1 whole square. Okay. Now substitute the values. 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into charge is 10 to the power of minus 8, 0.1 whole square, it is 0.01, or it can be written as 10 to the power of minus 2, take to the numerator, it becomes plus 2. Now here is 10 raised to 9 plus 2, 10 to the power of 11 minus 8. Therefore it is 9 into 10 to the power of plus 3 Newton per Coulomb. Now what is the direction of this one? Since it is positive charge, it is moving away. E1C is along this direction. Similarly, due to the negative charge, which is at the same distance, we have the same magnitude. That is, E2C is also having the same value, 9 into 10 to the power of 3 Newton per Coulomb. But it is a negative charge. Due to the negative charge, its electric field is along this direction, E2C. Now, these two fields are equal. They are equal and acting in a different direction. Therefore, the resultant is acting exactly at the bisector of those two fields. It is acting exactly at the bisector. Okay. We know this angle. Since it is an equilateral triangle, 60 degree. Therefore, this electric field is going to bisect them. The total is 120. Therefore, this is also 60 degree and this one is also 60 degree we are having. Or in total, the angle between E1C and E2C is 120 degree. Now we have to calculate the magnitude. The magnitude of the electric field EC is calculated by using the parallelogram law of vector addition. By that one we have studied in first PU, that is E1C square plus E2C square plus 2 times E1C into E2C cos the angle between them is 120 degree. Okay. Now we have E1C, E2C, both are having 9 into 10 to the power of 3. Okay. Cos 120 is cos 180 minus 60, that is half. Therefore, we are going to get even all are equal. E1C, E2C, all are equal. Therefore, this one equal. Let me write simply E. Now, this is E square plus E square. Now, here plus 2E square. These two are equal. Therefore, E, if I consider it as E, and cos 120 is minus half. So, that is equal to square root of E square plus E square. This gets cancels, minus E square. Therefore, EC is equal to this one get cancels. Therefore, E. That means same value, 9 into 10 to the power of 3 Newton per Coulomb. 9 into 10 to the power of 3 Newton per Coulomb. What is the direction? It is towards right. It is towards the right side direction. So here at A, both are acting on the same direction. Therefore, we have added directly. At the point B, both electric fields are in opposite direction, therefore we have subtracted. At the point C, both are acting at different angles. For that one, we are making use of parallelogram law of vector addition, resultant of two vectors if they are having an angle theta. So that we have studied in first POC. With that one, we have worked out the electric field at three different points. Now we will study one important concept, electric field lines or electric lines of forces. Now we have a charge around which there is an electric field. Now how can you represent the presence of an electric field? The presence of an electric field is represented by imaginary lines drawn around the charges, and those imaginary lines drawn around the charges which represents the electric field around the charge are called electric field lines. The imaginary lines drawn around a charge to represent the electric field are called as electric field lines. Now for a positive charge, if this charge is positive, the electric field lines are radially outwards. They are radially outwards. If the charge is negative, the field lines are represented by inwards. They are radially inwards. That is the thing. Now these field lines represents the electric field around the point charge. Now we are going to study some important properties of the electric field lines. Now the first property is they start from positive charge and end at the negative charge. Now if you have a positive charge and here we have a negative charge, they start from positive charge and end at the negative charge. Now this is the field representation. Now imaginary lines which are representing the electric field. They start from the positive charge and end at the negative charge. But if you have only a one charge, if there is only one positive charge, isolated charge, there is no other charges, then what about the electric field lines? They start from the positive charge and where they are going to end? They end at infinity. They are going to meeting at infinity. Similarly, for an isolated negative charge, single negative charge, how do you represent the electric field lines? The field lines, they start from infinity. They are starting from infinity and move towards the negative charge. They end at the negative charge. That is the first property. And second property, they form a continuous line or the curve. In a charge-free region, the electric field lines form continuous curves without any break. There is no breakage. There is a continuous curve in a charge-free region. Third point, very, very important one. Two field lines can never intersect or cross over each other. Now this is the one field line, and if it is another field lines, now they are crossing over each other. But this is not true in the case of electric field lines. They can never cross each other. If they cross each other, at this point we are going to get two directions for the electric field, which is against our law. So therefore, no two field lines can never cross each other. That is the third point. And the fourth point, one important point one, they will not form a closed loop. Not form closed loop. They are not going to form a closed loop. For example, if I take for a positive charge, they start from positive charge. They will not come back like this. They will not come back to the same positive charge. If there is a negative charge, then only they move there and come back to the negative charge. They will not form a closed loop. That is one more important. And fifth one, now we have a electric field line. If you draw a tangent to the electric field line at some point, now this tangent drawn to the electric field line represents direction of the electric field at that point. The fifth point, tangent drawn to the electric field lines at a point represents the direction of the electric field at that points. These are some important properties of electric field lines. Now we'll study the electric flux. Now consider a river in which water is flowing. Now take a ring and calculate how much of water is flowing through the ring. The quantity of water flowing through the ring, it not only depends on the volume of water which is passing in a given time, but also depends on the orientation of the ring. If the plane of the ring is perpendicular to the direction of flow of water, then maximum amount of water is flowing. If you orient the angle, then the flow of water goes on decreasing. Similarly, if you have a point charge here, the electric field lines are radially outwards for a positive charge. Okay? Now let me consider some area here. Now here in this area, how many number of field lines are passing? That accounts for electric flux. So therefore, electric flux is the number of electric field lines passing normally through an area. The number of field lines passing normally through an area is called as electric flux. So therefore, this electric flux, it not only depends on the electric field and not only depends on the area, it also depends on the orientation of area. If that area is held exactly normal to the field direction, then maximum number of field lines passes. If you increase the area, the field lines also increases. If you increase the charge, then the number of field lines passing through that one also goes on increases. Therefore, the electric flux defined through small area, if I consider a small area in this region, that is delta S, is given by, it is the dot product of vector E, that is the electric field vector, and the area vector. Now here we are considering area as a vector quantity, because the flux not only depends on the field, not only depends on the area, but also depends on the orientation of area with respect to the field direction. For that reason, here we are considering surface area as a vector quantity, or it can be written as electric flux is given by E ds cos theta. The magnitude is given by, in the dot product we are getting cos theta. Now what is theta here? Theta is the angle between the electric field vector and the area vector. Then how you choose the direction of the area vector? Now the direction of the area vector is always a normal drawn to the area. Now we have an area like this. Now draw a normal. Now this normal gives the direction of the area vector. But this normal can be drawn upwards as well as downwards. In two directions we are having the normal. Then which one we have to take? Now that is decided by, it is radially outward. The normal which is radially outward to the surface. If the surface is like that, we have the two normals, one normal along this one and another normal is along this direction. Now here for this surface which is radially outwards, now this one is radially outwards and this is radially inwards. So therefore we have to take this one as the normal. The normal which is radially outwards is taken. The electric flux through a small surface area is given by E into delta S cos theta, and if you consider the entire surface, the total flux, electric flux, can be written as sigma E into delta S cos theta. We are using the sigma notation. So here this one gives the small amount of electric field lines passing through this small area delta S. If you consider the entire area, then we are going to make use of sigma notation. Now what is the SI unit of electric flux? The SI unit of electric flux, electric field, it is Newton per Coulomb, and area, it is meter square. Therefore, Newton meter square per Coulomb is the SI unit of electric flux. It is a scalar quantity. Electric flux is a scalar quantity.